Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Alex and Hannah, and welcome to our living room.
You said my name like it's a question. Hannah?
Is it you?
It is my name.
It is her name. I'm used to doing videos only by myself, so welcome. We just put the boys down about 30 minutes ago.
Yes.
About 95% Hannah put them down, but I helped a little bit.
Because you were going to get diapers, so.
That is true. Late night Costco run.
You're the best daddy.
But hey, we just wanted to welcome you guys in. Right now, we are on day 39 of a 40-day fast that we'll be wrapping up tomorrow. And the reason we're recording this tonight instead of tomorrow night is because we're doing a special broadcast thing tomorrow night. But we just wanted to kind of talk a little bit and share with you guys our experience of fasting for 40 days and kind of the spiritual experience, the physical experience, the emotional experience. And just real quick for clarification, so everybody's on the same page, we're doing this for spiritual reasons. This is not like to lose weight. This is not to detox or anything like that. Like, all of those things have happened as a byproduct, but we're doing this to get closer to God. And I have been doing water and juice. I did water only the first 10 days. And then after that, I was just like, there's no way I can take care of two little boys with water only, and juice. And then also doing a little, one-ish a day, non-dairy protein drinks, just to kind of keep a little bit of energy going. So that's what I've been doing. And then Hannah is nursing right now. So Hannah, you want to kind of explain what you've been doing? Obviously, a little bit different because you're providing for another human being.
It's tricky with fasting when you're nursing or pregnant because you can't just be like 40 days, no food, just water, juice,
Well, that's what I want to do with just water. I was like, I just want to go in like a cave and just drink water, but that's obviously not reality.
So it's hard. But we believe that fasting means food. So what I decided to do was Whole30, which normally Alex and I do Whole30 at the start of every year. We just kind of like to cleanse our systems and stuff.
Which, for those that don't know, can you just real quick define Whole30?
Really quick description is it's no grains, no sugar, no dairy, no legumes. So
all the good stuff.
Yeah. So you eat air pretty much. No, I'm just kidding.
Because even meat, it's like very limited on the seasonings and stuff you can have.
Kind of meat. So anyway, it's just really good. But we've come out of like a really crazy season where we've been traveling a lot, and it has really been a sacrifice. I love eating healthy. I'm a generally pretty healthy eater. So, but putting in the time and effort to my food has been the struggle, because I usually am just like, what's the quickest thing that I can eat? So it's been hard not snacking, and I've been looking at Xander's snacks, and I'm like, I just want to take that to my room and just
Yeah, so we have right now 2.5-ish-year-old, and so he's eating very delicious things. Me and our toddler have like the same diet basically. He's eating chicken nuggets, macaroni and cheese, whatever basically. I mean, he eats fruit and stuff like that too, but I don't care about that. I care about like the little sliver of peanut butter and jelly that he left over for lunch, and I'm just like, oh, I could eat that. No, I can't eat that.
Yep.
So you're doing Whole30.
So I'm doing Whole30. Well, Whole40.
Whole40, right?
Because 30 means 30 days.
Yeah. And then we're also, just like as a household, we cut out which neither one of us are like really big, like quote unquote, like secular music type of people. I feel like when we listen to music, it's usually pretty like much worship music.
Yeah.
We're big podcast people. We are like, if we're listening to something, it's podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
But we cut out, basically non-worship music. Like, I haven't even been listening to a lot of just like hyped up Christian music. It's usually like very worshipful music. And any TV and movies, like we haven't been going to watch movies with people or anything like that.
That is a sacrifice for us because we love our shows.
Yes, so all the shows have been on hold, but good thing, starting tomorrow night or night after tomorrow, there's a whole lot to catch up on. Praise the Lord.
There is.
Anyways,
we're gonna have to do that in moderation.
So we just wanted to I mean, I really like documenting stuff, and just for me to look back
Yeah.
on, like I've been trying to every day write some kind of just journal entry of like how I feel, what I'm experiencing emotionally, and all that type of stuff. So, this is documenting for us, but then also for anybody that wants to watch this, because I know I have like a burden, Christianese of, I really think fasting is important. And I think it's something that just our generation, millennials, we're pretty young. Millennials, we're like right on that edge, but millennials, Gen Z, it's just not talked about a lot. It's not taught. And so I have some other videos that are more teaching, but I just want to kind of bring, I guess, some like awareness and just talk about why we did this. And again, some of the things that we went through, because, there is physical things, but then there's spiritual things, but then there's also like physical things that we've experienced and broken through and stuff. So I guess we can just kind of reel it back to the beginning, and I'll kind of kick us off because I was the one that kind of felt it at first, and Hannah immediately was like, yes, let's do that. Let's do it together. So we recently went through a big transition in life, and we're just like, what, because I'm like a doer, and I know there's a lot of people that are, like, you got to rest and you got to settle and different things, but I won't get into all that. I kind of have some pushback against that, but I'm like, I need to be, yes, I want to wait on God to bring answers, but I want to make sure I'm doing everything possible to set myself up for when he brings those answers, like the whole being prepared for what you're praying for and different things. So I was actually rocking Xander, our oldest son, one night, and just was like, 40-day fast. Like, if there's ever a time to do it, it's right now. And we won't go into all the details, but just, if there's ever a time in our life when we have the capacity, the space, let's do it. So talked with Hannah, we kind of decided on what we were going to do. And I mean, it was like, I think it was maybe a week, and then we started because there was like a few like birthday parties or something like that we wanted to get through. But we were like, let's just do it. And I know for me, I was like, let's just start it, because I don't want to like go backwards. I don't want to be like, oh, well, maybe we should just do a 21-day fast. Maybe we should just do. So we started, and it's been a journey. So you want to hop in and kind of share like the beginning, your thoughts, or just really anything.
When Alex told me that we were going to start the fast, it was just like he said, I was ready. I was excited, because I feel like whenever you're in a season of transition, that's when the enemy tries to slide in and distract you and make you doubtful, pull you away from your alone time with Jesus. And so just to like prioritize that together and for our family, it's been so good. And I even told Alex the other day, I was like, look at the season that we're in. Imagine if we weren't fasting right now.
Right.
Like he said, there's a lot of details, but like if we weren't fasting right now, we would probably be in the worst funk. Like it would be easy to fall into a funk, where you're just kind of like, okay, what's going on? But I love fasting because when we do it together as a family, just the whole vibe of our household just shifts, and we feel it. And it's something that it's like, I don't even want to go. I'll go see family. We'll go see people, we'll hang out, but I don't want to just sit and hang out anywhere. Like, I don't want to be idle with anyone. Like, I want to be home, and I just want to be in it and just praying and spending time with God. And it's just been very different this time. Like, we've done fasts together before, but I don't know. For me, this one just feels really different.
Well, it's been a lot more focused for sure, because normally
that's true.
a lot more focused, and I feel like it's more of us, us feeling to do it, us doing it together. It's not like in a selfish, like, oh, it's all about us, but it is just us. It's not like our pastor told us we need to fast. It's not like, oh, the whole church is going on a fast, so we're going to go on a fast together, which all those things are great. If your church, we've always done that. Yep. But usually in those times, which again is a good thing, but it's like you have special prayer meetings you go to, or you have special services or whatever. And this time it's like just us, which is good. But then it's also like again, there's nobody forcing us to do it. And I think that's I think maybe that's why it's hit us a little bit more, is because it is such a deep desire of we're choosing to do this, and like no one really cares if we do it or not. Like it's literally just between us and God. We did put it out there, like, and we've been doing some live streams and some different stuff with like our ministry and different things, just because I felt like we need to invite people in, people that want to be a part of it. And we've seen some great things happen. But even with that, like if we would have been like 21 days into it and just kind of like did like a just kind of slowly let it fade away, like stop posting about it, whatever, nobody would have really, gotten mad or anything. And I think that brings such a more of a, that's so much more of a weight to it, just in my opinion, versus when I've done when I've fasted in the past. And also I've never done a fast to this level. Like I did at the beginning of this past year, or this year, I did 21 days water and juice only. But 40 days, 40 days is a long time. Like I was thinking about that today.
It feels so much longer than 30. Like it doesn't just feel like 10 more days from 30.
I think
There's
it's because
something
the months
about
change.
like a month. Yeah.
Because like
I'm like, geez, we're still.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's been 2 months, even though you're just like a little bit into, because we started the end of August and now we've been in September. But September has felt like a long time, which just on like the physical side of things, your days somewhat do feel a little bit, they feel longer, they feel different, because you're not spending as much time on media. Your body is like more tired, but you can't always just go to sleep. If you've got kids, you've got job, you've got whatever, so you're having to like push through that, versus just like, oh man, like the day's already done. Like I've had all my coffee today and I've had all my caffeine and I've been scrolling for the past hour, and then I watched a couple of Netflix shows and like it's done. It's like, no, it's 7:00. Like what else are you gonna do today? So yeah, it's definitely felt like you said, in the home is definitely a big shift and a big difference. And there, I know there's a lot of things that we want to like continue after this.
For sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about the like some of the just spiritual things and like emotional things that we felt, because again, going back to the beginning, we're in a big transition in life, and I feel like that can apply to so many people, whether you're transitioning jobs, transitioning relationships, maybe you're either have moved to a new city or you're contemplating move to a new city, whatever, and it's like, okay, we just need clarity. Like we want to make sure that we're in God's will. We kind of knew, okay, we need to make these decisions, and then God will show us the next thing. And we made all of those decisions and we followed through with that. And then we're like, okay, God, so now what's like the next decision? And that's one of the big reasons we stepped into that. So you want to just kind of talk to that a little bit? Like,
yeah. God actually gave me a revelation about this today. Was it today? No, it was yesterday. I was driving.
You don't have to hold the mic that close if you don't want
I'm a singer, so it's really hard for me to not just like literally a centimeter away from my mouth. I'm
just
trained.
If you want to.
No, I don't want to. This feels
I just
so
want them to
wrong.
be able to see, want them to be able to see your face.
This feels so wrong. My Hillsong trainers are shaking. So yesterday I was driving the boys home, and like Alex said, we're praying for God to show us more about what our next looks like, but we also know He has a lot to show us in the now. And I just felt the Holy Spirit so gently say, I've already, like, you're living in the promise. You're living in the answer to your prayers. Like, don't get so excited about what's next that you don't enjoy. You took a leap to get here. You didn't take a leap to get 2 seasons from now. So what about right now? What about this current season? And I was like, oh my gosh. And I was driving and I quickly sent a voice memo to Alex and I said, babe, I don't want us to get so stuck on waiting for the next that we don't realize. Remember how big of a jump it was just to get here, and look at how much this is what I said to him. We have so much peace right now, and let's enjoy that. Like let's really, really be grateful for that. And even today, I was just thinking about it, and I really don't think that God will even show us our next until we genuinely come to the place where we're like, you know what, God, even if this is it, even if you don't do or say anything else, what you've done and what you've said is enough. That's enough. That is enough.
Yeah, and I mean I feel like there's been throughout the 40 days, that's been a constant theme of like there's been this like stripping away, because at the very beginning, obviously this transition that we did was a stripping away. I mean, obviously our choice, everything's good, but it was just like, okay, well, who are we now? Like, what are we doing? People are asking, what's the real story?
Can I just give because there's new people who don't know us.
Yeah, that's fine.
So it's really, really basic, because we could tell you a whole long story, but we won't do that. Really basic. Alex and his parents planted a church here in Austin, Texas 6 years ago. I was still at Bible college when they planted. A year in, I moved down. Alex and I got married. We were lead pastors underneath his parents, who were senior pastors. All four of us did that together for 6 years. About a year ago, Alex and I started to feel a shift. People started giving us prophetic words. We started going, wait, what? Like, it's only ever been our entire plan to be pastors at this church until we die. Like, that's all we've ever thought about. Like, this is the dream. Like, why would we do anything else? And then God slowly began to nudge us and give us prophetic words from your parents, outside leaders, mentors, not just like the random old prophetess lady at church, like our actual leaders that we look up to and
Shout
trust.
out, we all know one of those.
We love them. Where would we be without them? But like our actual people
we trust.
Yes, the people we trust were telling us, and we're like, are you sure God's saying that? Because we don't know any other plan. So then, how many months ago now?
2. We told my parents and the board 3 months ago, but it was officially 2 months ago.
That feels like a year ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not even 2 months. It's still like a couple of days until we hit 2 months.
Well, anyway, it was like a week where Alex and I just prayed. We were like, we feel this. Like, we feel so strongly to resign. And we feel God telling us to do it now.
Mm-hmm. It was a very fast
decision.
It was a long time in the making.
Yeah, and we didn't realize that Alex went away and fasted for 4 days, 4 days.
3 days, yeah.
He went and got an Airbnb, fasted, prayed, came back, and we both sat on these couches and we were like, yeah, we got to do this. And we really felt like the Holy Spirit and the peace we have had since we did it. We announced to the church. We talked to his parents. They told the board. We announced to the church, all within like 3 weeks. And it happened so quickly. And I'm like, if you would have told us 5 months ago, if you would have told us, I would have been like, what happened? Yeah. And that's the thing. Nothing happened. We're just being obedient. Mm-hmm. So after something like that, where there's so much unknown, where we're just like, but God, we trust you more than we trust anyone else. Like, our faith is in you. It's not in man. So we know you've got us. If you're telling us to do this, you're going to take care of us. You're going to show us what your plan is, because it's always better. It's never what we think. But we're also in like the most vulnerable season of our lives, because it's like we don't know what things look like next. God's given us pieces for sure, but I feel like y'all just need that context a little bit. That's the transition we're in. We're kind of just like, we don't fully know what the next looks like.
Right. So we went into this 40 days. That was a big part of this 40 days was And again, I have teachings on my YouTube channel about fasting. Like, I don't think fasting is like a hunger strike, that just because you fast, God's going to speak to you, or God's going to open the door or bring your breakthrough or whatever. But I do think that it sets you up, it positions you well. And so going back to the whole like stripping away thing, so that had been stripped away, just the whole deal of like just mentally and like emotionally going through, like, even though we know God said to do it, and we've gone through this multiple times over the past 40 days, it's still like, you still kind of feel that like, but who am I now? And like, what's my identity now? And then you hear people are like asking like, but what really happened? And you're like, no, like everything's good. Like, I want everybody to know everything's good, but you can't just like blast that out to the world or whatever. You can't just like convince people with like a post or something. So multiple times throughout this, we've just been like, okay, God, what else is it? Like, for me, it's like, okay, there's like I feel like I've, gone through this over the years, but like now, like completely just like any kind of like fear of people, or fear of people's opinions, or fear of the future, or like what's going to happen with our finances, what's going to happen, like all of that is just like layers of things that have been stripped away and stripped away.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Because he is in Enneagram 3.
Yes.
And this is big. The fact that he is like not freaking out about the practical and financial side of things.
Yeah,
So
like
I'm just
not being in control.
I'm so proud
like
of you.
Not like the striving and all that stuff. So what are some things that you feel like over the 40 days, like things that have been like, that you've gone through like emotionally or mentally, like things that have stripped away or whatever?
Honestly, I've felt so many things like, and this is something that I feel like people need to hear too. I've had to give myself permission to be angry.
That's good.
And not even like angry, not angry at God, because I trust him. And this is probably the biggest revelation that I've gotten this whole fast, is that where would my life be if God gave me what I wanted? That was something the Holy Spirit said to me, because we've been thinking through all these different scenarios. What if we do this? And what if we do this? And what if we do this? And every now and then we get stuck on one thing. And I've been like, that's the thing. That's what we're going to do, and blah, blah, blah. And then whenever I see that God's like starting to close a door or something, it's really easy for me to be like, wait, but we kind of just started to decide on that. And the Holy Spirit was like, can you just trust me? Mm-hmm. What would your life look like if I answered your prayers the way you wanted me to, and gave you all the things you asked me for? And I'm like, wow, my life would be completely different. It would, and I'm like,
probably wouldn't be together. We would probably wouldn't even know each other.
No, because what I thought I wanted was not what God had for me, because he had better. And let me go back to the angry thing. So I've just learned that if I allow myself to feel the emotions of anger, of like the situation in the transition, because there's been times where I'm like, why isn't this happening? Or why didn't it happen this way? And I think you have to.
We'll have days like, to be not to cut you off, but transparent, where we're just like, we really feel like the next 2 days, like something's going to happen. Like we're going to get a phone call, we're going to get an email, and then it doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. And like, so that's just disappointing.
I don't know. I'm like, it is disappointing. And there's been times where I've been just crying, and I'm just like, God, why? I know you have a plan. I know you know what's best for us, but like, why are we going through this? And I was like, wait, the fact that it hurts that much is why we're going through it. Mm-hmm. Because God needs to like remind us, hey, everything that you are placing on like a pedestal of like what the possibility could be, I'm going to shatter it, because I need to know that your faith in me is still all that matters. So the leaps of faith aren't over. I think that was a big thing, is we kind of, I don't know if we like consciously thought this, but like resigning kind of felt like the big leap. And God quickly showed us after that was just like the first one.
Yeah, because I mean, I think we both, like, again, just being honest, like, we're just trying to be like transparent on this. Is I think, at least in my mind, I mean, we did some stuff beforehand, like we set up a website, we like set up this stuff, and just because of, and this isn't just like sheer like ignorance, we because of things that had happened in the past, because of like invitations we'd gotten, because of job offers we'd gotten, because like we had gotten job offers like when we already had a job, you know. So we're thinking, oh man, when
Now
we
when we
when
don't
we
have a job.
announce that we're like free agents, it's just gonna flood in, you know, all these churches that are like, we want you guys to come and do whatever and be whatever, and we even said before we resigned, like if we were just gonna go on staff at a church, which not to say we're against going on staff at a church, but just to go to a random place that we
That's
didn't feel
not-
called to,
yeah.
that's not like, if we go on staff, it's somewhere that we feel called to, we feel like God's sending us to.
Which I think is a really good reminder for people like that. Before Alex and I even resigned, we had already agreed on, okay, if doors open, who right now would we feel comfortable accept? Like, what door right now would we feel comfortable walking through? That way, whenever doors do open, it doesn't start to cloud your judgment, or like money doesn't make things shift or whatever.
Yeah, I think those non-negotiables, like before you go into a season of transition, are really, really good. Or just before you start like asking for something or praying for something. Like I always use, just because it's so applicable to everybody, like a relationship of where you're just like, I want a girlfriend, I want a whatever. But if you just have kind of like no like parameters on that, you could have like a horrible person come along and you're just like, God, you sent me this woman, and it's like, no, God did not send that. But yeah, so like when we announced, those things didn't happen. Like we didn't get this flood. I mean, we've gotten invitations we're super, super thankful for. You know, every other week or so we've been traveling out to speak and minister and getting to see a lot of friends and stuff. But going back to like what you said about the peace and everything, I think we've both realized kind of individually on this 40 days that this is a time where we're in a unique situation, a unique position where we can just kind of chill for a little bit. And we don't have to like jump into that next thing. And I know that's probably a little bit easier for you, your personality, than my person, because I'm just like, we got to go, we got to figure this out, we got to build this thing, we got to, you know, do this, we got to do that. And I think if we would have just jumped into something, like jumped into traveling all the time or jumped into a ministry position, we would have missed out on the peace and like the rest and different things. Because I mean, we've been through a lot the past couple of years. I mean, really, ever since we've gotten married, there's been sickness stuff. There's been church planting, which is just, for those of you that don't, just imagine, you know, starting a business and it growing, you know, to pretty large within 4 or 5 years. I mean, there's just a lot that goes into that. A lot of skills you have to learn, a lot of, you know, heartbreak you go through, issues you go through. So we're now able to kind of like chill and just like rest and recuperate and stuff before that like next thing. And I always like, I've been talking a lot about, or just studying, and like we've been talking a lot, I've been thinking about just like all the like the desert like seasons like in the Bible, because everybody, like all the great,
This is my prayer in the desert.
I don't even know what song that is. I couldn't even really hear you.
I was like whispering. The desert song. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm not a Carrie Job super fan.
Well, that's Hillsong, friend.
Well, there you go. Revelation song. That's Carrie Job. But so there, you know, you have all these like desert seasons, and the desert is always like a transition season. It's always a season of, you know, chipping away of things that don't need to be there. So you look at like the desert of course, Abraham, you know, stepping out in faith. You look at the desert of the children of Israel, they're stripping away all the sin and idolatry and things, but it's also the things that happens like right before the new season. So you look at again, Abraham going into the promise, you have the children of Israel, you have Jesus going in Matthew chapter 4, where he goes into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, and then he's tempted by the devil, and then he starts his ministry. And so I just thought that was really cool of like people always look at like, wilderness, barrenness, desert, whatever as like it, just in our natural thinking, like that's a bad place to be. Like there's no water, it's hot, it's whatever. It's not really it's not really the right environment for like humans to live in and like be in. But biblically, you see all of these great things happen when you survive that desert season, when you make it out of that wilderness season. And also what you do in that wilderness season and that desert season is so important because like you said, during this time, we could just be like laying around all day, binging on Netflix, like eating bad food, just hanging out all the time with our friends, doing whatever we wanted to do. And we've like chosen to do hard things, like even like getting out of some debt and like paying like stuff like that. That's like we don't necessarily have to do, but we're trying to get all of that like taken care of right now.
We're trying to prepare.
Yeah, like let's get ourselves physically ready, financially ready. Get our house in order, like literally our house, like fixing up things and like touching up walls and all that type of stuff. So I think there's like it'd be very easy for people that are watching, whether you're doing a 40-day fast, you just feel like you're in that like dry season, that like desert season. Be very easy to miss the reason for that season. Hey, Christmas is coming up, guys. But it'd be super easy to miss, and you don't like, why am I here? Why am I going through this? What's the point of this? And I always love that, and I'll let you just mention what you're going to mention, but I always loved, and it just always hits me so hard with Jesus, where it says the Holy Spirit led Jesus into the wilderness. Like it didn't say Jesus wandered into the wilderness, or Satan tempted Jesus and Satan drew Jesus into the wilderness. It says the Holy Spirit led Jesus into the wilderness to be tempted. Like that always hits me so hard because I'm like, okay, so one, the Holy Spirit's leading me to a place I don't want to go. Two, he's leading me to a place to be tempted. And my just big like revelation from that is that if you don't go through the wilderness, you won't make it through the temptation. If you can't put up against the desert place, like if you can't make it through the temptation to eat, then you're gonna give into the temptation when the devil comes. But like, and I know I'm like getting preachy here, but Jesus, like Satan tempts Jesus with bread, and it's like, bro, Jesus has already not eaten for 40 days, and he actually didn't eat or drink for 40 days. So once you said no to something for 40 days and then Satan comes along, it's like another day. Yeah. And I feel like, in times like this, there's things that you learn, and then later on you're like, that's not even a big deal. Like I did that 10 years ago, like I don't even think about that anymore. That's not even a struggle anymore because I did it in that I killed that temptation. I like killed that issue in the desert place, in the wilderness place.
Yeah, I agree. And it's crazy how it actually works. This metaphor actually makes a lot of sense because I was picturing a wilderness in my mind, but like imagine you're walking through a forest and like you're so close to making it to the other side, but you can't see it. So right now in these seasons, it always feels like it's never going to end. And like, I feel that way right now, kind of. I'm like, we're always going to be in this season. Like, it's just, we're always going to be fasting and waiting and, but no, like there is something that God's going to reveal at the right time. It's just not going to look the way that we think it's supposed to look. But I think back to times in my life where God has a track record, and that's what I love to always go back to. It's like you can just look back in your life, like how many times he's come through.
Great is thy faithful.
I don't know what song you're singing now.
Never failed me yet.
Oh, great is your faith. You
See,
remix.
I always remix it. That's what I call it when I get the
He
lyrics
does.
messed
He
up. I
remixes
call it
lyrics.
remixing it.
My favorite one is on Echo. Your love is like a drug and it won't let go.
I confidently sang that for like 6
I know.
months.
I was worried about
Da, 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 da.
this hair is really bothering me. It's like
Nobody
sticking
can see it from
okay,
that far
cool.
away. So
So anyway, what was I saying?
that God has a track record.
I look back and I'm like, at the same time, even though in these like transition seasons or when you're fasting and you're hoping that God's going to give you, your next, or give you what you're asking for, what you're praying, something you're praying for. It's easy to, dang it, no, I was going to say something else and that thought left. Dang it.
I'm sorry.
Something very specific.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Hold on.
We're going to take an intermission now.
Okay.
Our sponsor.
I'm just going to say something that I was already planning to say and hopefully it'll come back. But I look back and I'm like, okay, God, like every single time I've been positioned this way, you've blown my mind. Like I remember right after high school, I knew that ministry was going to be a big part of my life. I didn't know what that was going to look like. I had no idea what it was going to be, but I just knew that I felt that a call to ministry. And so I wanted to go to Bible college. So I told my mom and dad, hey, I want to go to Bible college. And they were like, cool. How are you going to pay for it? And I was like, I don't know. So I started having bake sales.
GoFundMe.
GoFundMe. No, I've never in my life done a GoFundMe. No hate to GoFundMe.
Little bit of hate.
But kind of to the people who don't do anything.
To the people that we know that spent the money on clothes when they said it was for tuition.
To the people that just did a GoFundMe and didn't work.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. I won't go on a tangent on that. But I was like, cool.
We just lost half our audience.
I know. So I started doing bake sales because that was the thing at the time that you did. If you're going on a missions trip, you're raising money, or at least that's what I did.
Really old, Hannah.
I know. That's what we did.
2011. Wow.
Hey, it was a thing. So I was doing them every single weekend. I would do 3 a weekend sometimes. My mom would help me. We'd set up a tent outside the Bible bookstore in Victoria, Texas. I don't even think it's there anymore. But we did that every weekend in the middle of the summer. I was working for my mom's business. I was doing all this stuff. I was like, I'm going to raise the money. And then a lady, like 5 weekends into this, a lady literally walks up to me and is like, my pastor told me this morning to find someone for us to fully sponsor to go to your exact Bible college. And I was like, oh my gosh, like if I wouldn't have been out here, in the beating hot sun
for
5 weeks, like that wouldn't have happened. Like I had to be doing this to get there. And like, I think that's why I love where we're at right now, because we're not just sitting and waiting. We're doing our part. And God doesn't say like, to trust him to the point to where it's like, okay, God, like you're just going to take care of it all. No, he starts where we end. Like we have to do everything we're capable of. And then he's like, cool, let me take over. Like I'll get the rest. Like, but do all that you can do.
Yeah, like I think about Abraham and Isaac. I mean, going back to Abraham, there's a reason he's called the father of the faith, you know. But when God told him when we talked about this a few nights ago, God, you know, for those of you, just to recap the story, you know, God calls Abraham out of the Ur of the Chaldees. You know, he begins to build a pretty large estate with animals and, you know, families camping around him and all this stuff, but he doesn't have any children. God says, I'm going to make you the father of many nations, that you look up in the sky, as many stars as you see, as many sand is on the seashore, you're going to have more descendants than that. But he says that when at the time, Sarah and Abraham, or at that time they were known as Abram and Sarai, had no children. So it's like, okay, God, well, how am I going to be the father of many nations when I'm not even the father of one person, specifically one son, in the way that age, in that day and operated, how things were passed down to the sons and stuff. He's like, how am I going to be? So God's like, okay, well, I'm going to give you a son. Long story short, he gets a son, Isaac. Isaac starts to grow up, and then God's like, hey, by the way, I want you to offer your son Isaac as a sacrifice. I want you to kill your own son, which is intense. Like, and I mean, I understand where people see that story that aren't Christians and are like, this is kind of crazy. But we know the end of the story is that as soon as he's, about to bring the dagger down on his son, which also, just side note, Isaac was like a full grown man and Abraham was like 100 something at this point. So, Isaac could have like beat up his dad if he wanted to. So that's like a whole point we never really talk about, the fact that Isaac was willing to like lay down
in
and
the
be
cartoons
the
that I
sacrifice.
watched when I was little. It was always Isaac was like a 3-year-old boy.
Yeah, no, he wasn't. Yeah, I don't think he was. I mean, we don't really know necessarily, but I don't think he was that young. I mean, if your dad's 100 something years old, like you can beat him up. Anyways, and a ram comes from the thicket, and they sacrifice the ram, and it's all good. But Abraham didn't know that, and so it was up until that very last moment. Then the ram comes, and even in the story, which most people listening probably know, but even in the story, like Abraham tells the servants to stay down at the bottom of the mountain. He's like, me and Isaac are going to go up, and Isaac's like, cool, Dad, but like, where's the sacrifice? And Isaac's just like, God will provide. And I think it's cool that like Abraham was saying God's going to provide, and he was trusting God. Like, yes, God told me to sacrifice my son, but I know he's going to provide. Like, he's going to, there's some way that he's going to provide. Like, even if my son dies, maybe he'll bring him back to life. Maybe he'll, like there's going to be some way that he provides. And we were talking about that because, there was like or still is like a very specific, place that we want to go and like ministry that we want to be a part of and stuff. And there were a couple weeks where like things were kind of ramping up of like, man, like this might happen like quick, like we might be moving there like in the next like couple of months, like, and then things haven't gotten bad, things haven't gone backwards. Stagnant. It's just kind of like, it's just kind of stayed still. And so both of even that, like we felt like that was the promise. We're like, we're fasting, and then even that promise, we're like, okay, God, well, if you want us to lay that down, we'll lay that down, and we know you're going to provide. Like you're going to provide for the sacrifice, for the promise. But that's something, again, like going back to being like very vulnerable, that's something that was very hard for us. Like that was very emotional for us. Because again, you go back to these times where you're just like, okay, God, well, like what else can we give you? And like, we've done everything we're supposed to do. Like when are you going to come through? When are you going to, but it just keeps going back to, but we would be doing this anyways. Like if we don't get anything out of it, if we don't get, if there's no like results, it's just laying ourselves down at Jesus's feet. Something I've been talking about on our live streams a lot the past couple of days, just, Mary like pouring out the oil on Jesus's feet. And every time Mary's around, like people are talking bad about her. So like in one situation, Martha's like, why aren't you helping me make the food? And then in another situation, Judas is like, why didn't we sell that so that we could give the money to the poor? And then it literally puts like in parentheses, like Judas just wanted the money for himself. Like it like says that in there that he was just trying to, but it's like, like, why are you wasting this time? Like, why are, you could be using this. And again, like, from some people's perspective, I mean, a lot can happen in 40 days. Like there's a lot that we could have done. We could have like hustled. We could have, reached out to people. We could have, DM'd people, like all this different stuff.
We haven't done that.
And that's just, and maybe we could just talk about that for a second. Cause that's just been so, I think it's against us, like our view or kind of, I don't know, just like the way we operate, I guess, already, like just in anything, but then on something this like spiritually deep and stuff, it's even at a greater level. We're just like, if it's gonna happen, like we want God to make it happen. And that was even one of the things maybe we could talk about, why we took some of these steps that we took is because we're like, we look at all these great men and women of faith that we look up to, and their story is always like, it's always just something that crazy that like God did. Like God, you know, gave them a TV station and they like became this world renowned person, or like, you know, God provided for them to like do this thing, or, you know, Lou Engle, which he was a big inspiration for those of you that don't know Lou. Definitely look him up for this fast, because he was like, God called him to like prayer and fasting, like as his like full-time like thing. And he's like, well, I mean, that doesn't really like make money, God. Like even in like the ministry world, it's like, okay, well, bro, you got to like go into the office, you got to whatever. Yeah. And a couple months after that happened, he has like, I think he has like 7 or 8 kids. And this is when they were all like young. A couple months into that, a lady came up to him and was like, God told me I'm supposed to pay your salary for this year, like for a full year. And he was just like, wow, that's crazy. Well, she ended up paying his salary for 15 years straight, full-time salary, so just to like, hey bro, we just want you to pray, fast, travel if you want to travel, you know. So we were like, those are the type of people that that's like the group that we want to be associated with. Not like, oh, we're gonna be on their same level. I'm just saying that's who we want to, that's those types of people's stories that like inspire us and that we look up to.
That's the amount of material and earthly things that we want to lay down.
Yeah.
Because how much faith do you really have if you're good if God does nothing? Like if he doesn't if you're like, okay, God, I'm trusting you, but if you don't come through, like we'll still be okay, because I'm not gonna, okay, like let's not be crazy. I'm not gonna like fully make room for you to do something.
Like I'm still gonna have a safety net.
Yeah.
Like,
and like
I'll still keep these few job offers open, or I'll still like, we've
I'll
given
start
away a bunch of
doing
money
this.
that we didn't have at all. Like we at all
really didn't have.
Yeah. And that would have been nice to have that like safety net. And we're just like, all right, God, here you go.
But it's just like,
and gave it in a way that didn't benefit us at all. Like,
yeah.
We don't get anything out of it.
Yeah. No strings attached. And I feel like right now we just keep creating more and more space. There's just a gap for him to fill, and like it's big. But it's like we're not just sitting and like, oh God, look, we're doing our part. We're definitely not just waiting. But I don't know, I think that's crazy. Like I think that's something we've really challenged ourselves with. It's like, okay, how much are we actually, we've never laid this much down before.
No.
I think that's just worth saying, because there's moments where I'm just like, wow, this is really like, my flesh is scared, but my spirit is at peace.
Yeah.
And there's moments where I'm just like, what's going to happen? But I told Alex this whole fast has felt like a consistent Christmas Eve. Like something's coming, but it's
like
just not quite. Like there's gifts to be opened and we have no idea what's inside, but it's not time yet.
Yeah.
Because it's not Christmas yet. So it literally is like giddy. Like I get butterflies when I think about it, because I know God's going to come through. I know God's going to show us. And when we look back at this season, and for whoever is watching this, and if you're believing for something, or if you're whatever it looks like in a transition, I know we're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, if it would have happened at that time, this puzzle piece wouldn't have fit. If it would have been that thing that we were so wrapped up in that we were like, this is where we're going to go, then this couldn't have happened, because these are all the dots. And a friend really close to us that we really trust to speak into our lives told us, he was like, I feel God saying that it's just a matter of right now, how did he word it? The key word is timing.
Yeah.
It's not about like what, it's when. And so that's why we just need to be patient. But anyway, I could go on a tangent.
And even if we don't, like, again, going back to, even if we don't get like an open door, or like if there's not we're still getting things out of this process. Like we're getting more, getting more solidified in what we believe. Like our faith is being built up to where in the future, like when God, because like this past time, and again, none of this is a brag, it's just like to show, but we gave away like the most money we've ever given away at one time, and probably more than like everything combined in the past, but like the most money we've ever given away at one time. And it's like in the future, when God tells us to give away even more money, like that faith muscle will be like built up. And so even if there's not that open door or that opportunity or whatever, there's so many things that we are gaining, and then things that we're losing that are good. Like I said, losing the fear of what people say about us, or the fear of, or just putting things that maybe not necessarily an idol, but maybe just something that had a little bit too much weight in our hearts. Like maybe having this position was just a little too important to us, or maybe having this title was just a little too important to us. And again, yes, it's all for God. It's not like, but I think a lot of times people think that you're either like, and we've even been this, like you said earlier, like you're angry, but I mean, the Bible says you can be angry and sin not. So I think people have this idea of, okay, well, I'm like completely pure hearted, and like in ministry, for example, like I'm just doing this from a completely pure place, or like it's an idol and we got to like tear it down and like burn it. And it's like, there's some gray area there. Like I can truly be, preaching for God and doing this completely under Him, and like offering is like a sacrifice, but then also have a small place of me that does enjoy speaking and preaching, and it's not an idol, but it's like I do enjoy that. And it's like, okay, well, if you take that, if that's gone forever, does that sting a little bit? And it's like, ooh, it kind of does sting a little bit. Like, is that something that, and I don't think that's something that's gone forever, but I think those little things that maybe we're losing, again, I know for me, like I said, the fear of rejection, the fear of what I call the fear of man, but just the fear of people's opinions, the fear of what people are thinking. I think those are all things like you're losing something, but you're really gaining it. And so even if we don't, if we don't gain anything, which we know God's going to show us stuff and different things there, even just like we talked about, I think towards the beginning, there's just a more of like an awareness of God's presence, and there's more of a, there's things that we just were like, nah, I don't really care to do that anymore. Like I don't really want to talk about that stuff anymore. I don't really want to entertain those things anymore. Again, not like necessarily sinful things, but just things that were like, I'd rather like be praying, or I'd rather like read my Bible.
Yeah, we feel like this fast, which I feel like fasts always do this, but it's caused us to raise the standard in a lot of areas.
It's been like my theme.
Yeah, and it that's what we've done. Like, and I feel like every time we fast, we kind of bring it in, and we're like, okay, let's continue. Let's like keep that same energy, like let's stay doing this. Let's stay doing that. Like let's reset. But there are a lot of things that Alex and I have felt stronger convictions on. There's things, there's just a lot. And I feel like, I don't know. I feel like the older we get, the less we know. Because right now I'm just like, I feel like we still have so much to learn. Like in ministry, at least for me, in ministry and everything. Like it's crazy how you can come out of a season and now I'm like, okay, God, I don't know what you're preparing us for, but this fast has like humbled me in like the most extreme ways. Like I've never felt so like, I was going to say humiliated, but that doesn't.
I think you mean humbled.
Humble.
Yeah.
Humiliated.
I mean, I kind of, yeah. I mean, sometimes there's a fine line. Sometimes there is a fine line.
So humbled. Well, I was thinking of like humility, and then I went to humiliated. Anyway.
Yes, I'm pretty sure it's pretty sure it's humbled.
I've never been more humiliated.
Humiliated. But I agree. I actually heard somebody the other day, like I follow all these like business people and stuff on like TikTok and YouTube and everything, and there's actually like a, I guess, psychology like graph or whatever, where it's like the more you do something, the less you feel like you're an expert. So they've even studied like people that are legit like
because you just become
PhDs.
aware of how dumb you are.
And so you have people that are like a PhD in, you know, let's just say they have like a high level degree in like studying World War II like history or whatever, and you ask them a question and like, well, that's really hard to answer because, you know, there's kind of some differing sides. And then you ask like a high schooler who just took like world history like 201 their junior year of high school, and they're like, no, it happened exactly like this. I just almost broke my phone doing that. But it's like, no, this person that spent their entire life studying something is kind of like, I mean, I don't really know. Like, and then somebody that's just started is just so, and I think that's, I mean, me and you have both been to like ministry schools and things like that. And that's a big thing that happens in ministry schools.
Same. This is like a good analogy for that. It's like when you grow up in a small town your whole life, you're so limited on your way of thinking, and like you're just in like a little bubble. And then it's like, but then whenever you experience life outside of that, or you get exposed, you see how much more there actually is in the world, and you're like, oh, whoa. There was so much I still didn't know, but just because it made sense in my world, I thought I knew everything. So it's like the same thing.
Yeah.
Which we're really passionate about that because we both kind of like got out of our bubbles when we were younger.
Yeah. Get out there.
Go live
learn
life,
some
guys.
things.
Have some people look at you and say, hey, you're not actually that great.
Yeah, that's probably, I mean, honestly, that's
honestly, just wherever you can go to have someone tell you that, I feel like
just zoom in right now.
You're not.
Trying to get like serious. You're really just not that good. Like you're really not. You just need to give up. Like that's No, that's a whole. We should do a whole other podcast. I like this format. I think we're going to continue this format. It's very relaxed. I like it.
What should the name of this be called? After bedtime. That sounds weird.
Might get some interesting viewers on that one. After
the boys
dark.
are asleep after dark.
But yeah, I think, and again, I think fasting. Yeah. Going back just always reveals things that you're like, I'm really not that good at that. Like I didn't know I had that pride there. I didn't know that I had that temptation there. I didn't know a big one just going, like, we haven't talked a lot about the practical side, but just the practical side, like your willpower.
Yeah.
Like not like, I'm not saying this in like a braggy way at all, but it's like I haven't eaten anything in almost 40 days. And I feel pretty okay. Like I've had some bad days. Like obviously I know once I eat, I'm going to be like, oh gosh, like this is what normal feels like. But I'm not dead. Like I'm not malnourished.
Malnutrition.
And so now like my willpower, I'm just going to carry this into other things where I'm like, if you would have asked me, especially like when I was at the height of my like obesity and stuff, if I would not eat for 40 days, I would have been like,
I'm going to die.
There's no way. Like that's going to be impossible. And so now just taking this into the future, like there's going to be things that you're like, there's no way that could happen. And it's like, yeah, but you did this, like you completed this thing. And that's like a very practical thing. But I just think again, like there's stuff that you're so sure about right now, whether it's one way or the other, like you're so sure it can't happen, or you're so sure you can do it, or it's just like, yeah, I'm super good at that. And through the process of fasting, whether it's emotional, spiritual, physical, or whatever, it just begins to reveal those things. And then I think our responsibility is like, okay, what am I going to do now that that's been revealed? Am I just going to like, ignore that and just be like, that's really not something I want to address. That's not really something I want to get into. Or are you just going to lean into it and be like, well, I'm already this far in. I might as well figure out where I suck. Might as well figure out all the places that I'm like a horrible human being and, bad husband and bad father.
Oh
and
my gosh,
but I'm just saying, like, it's just like, let's just expose all this stuff so that it can be healed, so that it can be fixed.
I agree.
Again, before you go into not even saying it next, just before you go back to quote unquote normal life. Like when you go back to eating, when you go back to hanging out with your friends more or whatever, it's like fix some of those things now. It's almost like you're in like a repair shop or something.
Yeah.
It's like, let's, if all these things need to be fixed, let's just go ahead and fix it instead of being like, okay, no, like it'll be all right. Let's just go put it back on the road and just keep dealing with all those issues and keep breaking down and keep, having bad gas mileage, and you're tearing up your tires and like all these different things that you could say. We're experiencing all these things that are like tearing us inside emotionally. And it's like, if you would just take a pause and fix that stuff, you'd be able to go a lot farther, a lot faster.
Yeah, I agree. Something that God's really convicted me about during this fast, which I don't even know if I would have thought about this or felt this conviction otherwise, is just to stay curious about everything. Like, I don't want to assume anything. I don't want to assume I know what God's going to do. I don't want to assume what I think other leaders are up to, what I think people in my life are doing, whatever. Like, that's just my theme. And in my mind right now, I'm just like, no, I just want to stay curious. Like, oh man, like, I wonder what that person is going through that they said that. I wonder what
also, like staying humble, going back to what you said too, like not assuming.
Yeah, not assuming. And that's like the best way to not be judgmental of others is to be curious. Like, just staying curious about, oh, like, I wonder why this happened. Or I wonder why you're doing things this way. I wonder what you have that you needed to like extend this for us or do this for us or whatever. Have this person do this or not do this. And I know it sounds so like random, but it's actually so good. At least it's been really good for me, because I've even told you, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to assume. I don't want to assume I know like what's going on in this situation or what people are doing or why God did this or why, like.
Yeah, because we both get annoyed by people, probably you more than me, but we get annoyed by people that are like the reaction people that are like the, XYZ person did this, and then everybody's like, well, yeah, we know why they did that. Well, if you look back at their post 3 weeks ago, they posted this, and this is the reason that they did that. And it's like, you don't really know. I mean, like, and I think some of that probably comes from, like, we know there are people that are doing that to us right now. Like, probably not a ton of people. We're not that big of a deal.
If you look at our situation from the outside,
it's easy to be like, what's going on? It would be so
easy to be like, you guys have 2 boys. You just came out of a crazy season of like back to back to back to back to back to back crazy things happening. Financially, it does not make any sense. Y'all just got a new house a year ago. You're doing all these things. You have 2 cars. Like,
son was in the hospital.
Medical bills, all this stuff. So something had to happen.
Yeah.
No, they're not just resigning. Like, something went down and what's the tea? And I'm like, we fully know that there's probably people who think that.
Well, no, we legitimately know that there are people.
We know there's one.
We've seen the receipts.
But I'm just like, it totally could look like something else, and that in itself is the reminder that you should never judge other people's situations or what it looks like from the outside, because you never know. Also, that's like totally removing God from other people's situations, which is so annoying.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Like, that's like literally a slap in the face to God. Like, God's not in that.
Yeah.
What happened?
That's what I was going to say is like, it's sad that, and obviously there's been a ton of like scandals and stuff the past couple of years. We've been like very close to some of those people, and like it's been challenging for us to work through that, like in the church world. So we get all that, but it's pretty sad that like leaps of faith or like steps of faith have become so uncommon that people automatically assume like you're not really stepping out on faith. Like, what's the real story? It's like, no, we're literally doing what the Bible says, to like walk by faith and not by sight, to like, abide in him, to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Like, just doing, what the Bible says. People are like, no, there's no way that can't happen. I just think that's like not just for us. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, we don't care about if anybody thinks that about us, but I just think it's sad that like in the Christian sphere, not even, because like non-Christian people, I'm like, I get it, bro. Like, I'm not even gonna try to like make it make sense to you. Like, I don't even tell, like, usually if people ask me, I'm like, hey, well, we're gonna be doing some things in the future, but we saved up some money and we're just kind of taking a little bit of break right now to spend time with our boys. And they're just like, oh, cool. Like, that's my like barber like pitch that I tell like random people. But when like Christian people that know the Bible, know about Abraham, know about, all these people are just still like, yeah, but.
Or they're like, why did you do that? Like, why?
And to me, it shows that their faith is low.
Yes. I was like, I pray that you start to believe that God can do more for your life, because
right.
We all have the opportunity to stay where we're at. And honestly, I think God would have blessed it. Probably.
Yeah.
But we felt a grace lift and we knew it was time to move on. But it's like, if
and
you're
the
not,
church has seen great things happen since.
yes,
like
amazing.
Yeah.
And we have more peace than we've had in a long time. And that in itself is, I think, awesome. But it's like, I don't know. I'm just like, I just wish that more people would believe that God can do more. Because that's the word he gave me before we even started the fast. It was to dream bigger, because I'm a very naturally content person. Like, it's to my core, I'm just content. Like, I'm like,
and I'm not.
I'm like, obviously, like when I'm like excited about something, like I go all in, I go hard, like I love it so much. But as far as like a season and a place and whatever, I'm just like, this is great. Why would we ever need a house any better than this? Like, God, you gave us this amazing house. You gave us these amazing kids. You gave us like,
It's an amazing husband.
oh my gosh, of course. But it's like, God's told me, it's like I felt the Holy Spirit say to me, okay, but let's say I just wanted to give you more just because I love you, just because I want to bless you. What would you want? And I was like, I don't even know. Like, my brain like didn't even know how to like think outside the box and to think like, I mean, I haven't, like Alex and I've always been like, I don't know. Like I don't know. And I've really had to like ask myself to dream bigger for us, for our family, everything. Because I am genuinely just like, we're healthy. We live in an amazing house. We have so much family that's alive and healthy. God's brought us through so many things time and time again, sicknesses, all these things. And I'm like, we are alive and healthy and okay. Like, what more could we ask for? And God's like, just like, trust that I want to just spoil you now. Like, there's going to be things I know he's going to just drop on us just because.
But I think that's the place you have to get to. You have to get to, and,
Yeah,
and maybe
that's
we can
true.
just kind of like wrap things up with this, is like, I think you have to get to that place of where all of that stuff is stripped away, like all of the, whether it's the desire for position or more money, or for those that are like single, like you're like, I gotta get, find my person, I gotta get married, whatever it is, like all of that stripped away, that you're like, I'm good. Like, yes, I know God can do more. I know that he's a good father and that he wants to give me more, but I'm good right now. And
That's
again, going
laying
back
it all
to
on the altar,
the just always bringing it back to the Bible. That's whenever, like, you look at Joseph, like Joseph did Potiphar's house really well. And of course he went to prison, but then he did the prison really well. And then it's like, okay, God, like, I'm good with where you've got me. Like, this is a blessing. This is enough for me. And what I keep coming back to is, and I talked with a friend about this on a podcast I'm going to be releasing right around the same time this one does. But just, I don't think it's like we're earning something from God. I think it's God, us building trust with God. And I think you posted something even today that like you can forgive someone but like not trust them, like that. Just just because you forgive them, the trust isn't actually brought.
They're not a 2-for-1.
And there's different schools of thought. Like some people think you should give trust first and then like let the person break it. Other people think you should like make them earn trust. But either way, I think, yes, God knows, like he knows our end from the beginning. He knows all that. But there's something about, okay, God, you trusted me with like the 700 square foot apartment. You trusted me with, 3 people listening to my Bible study. You trusted me with, this middle job, like where it just feels like I'm not leading anyone. It's like such an insignificant, unimportant job. And God's like, okay, but like you did that. Like I can trust you with that. It's the parable of the talents is all it is. He gave 1 5, he gave 1 3 or 2, I always get them confused, and then he gave 1 1, and the guy with 5 doubled it. The guy with 3, I think 3 or 2, don't hate me, doubled it. And it's like it wasn't about the amount, because for the person that doubled the 5 and the person that doubled the 3, he was like, well done. But so 1 now created a wealth of 10, which a talent was a lot of money. People always call it like the parable of the silver coin. It wasn't a silver coin. A talent was like hundreds of thousands of dollars at least. So these people were talking about a lot of wealth that the master trusted them with. But again, the 2 that doubled it, they didn't get to the same amount. They just doubled what they were given, and God said, well done. But then the person that hid it or just hoarded it, that's like, no, why would I trust you with more when I couldn't even trust you with this little amount? It's funny that, I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry. I was going to say, it's funny to me that the one that he gave the least is the one that trusted him the least. Like you would think the one that had the 5, like, oh, I'm worried about spoiling the 5, because like this is a lot of money, this is a lot. And you would think the one with 1 talent would just be like, oh, it's just 1 talent, it's not that big of a deal. The other guy got 5. Let me just throw this in the stock market real quick, see what can happen. But the one he gave the least trusted him the least, and I think that's indicative of the reason he got the least is because the master could trust him the least. He's like, I'm going to give you something. I'm going to see what you can do with it. Like God's going to give everybody something. Like even if you've messed up in the past, even if he's going to give you something. But it's also like,
what do you do with it?
I kind of knew this was coming.
I think it's the moment that what he's already done becomes enough. That's when he believes that we're ready for more. And we can wrap this up, but the last thing I want to say is I'm trying to say this without crying, but I feel like I've been in this place, I've come to this place once before in my life where I had to lay something down on the altar, something that I didn't realize I had such a hard, tight grip on. And I didn't realize I had so much identity wrapped up in this one thing happening this certain way that God never said, but I decided was his plan for me. And he revealed it to me that this was an idol, and I had to lay it down. And when I really, really let go, I was on my face and I said, God, I don't care. I don't care if I ever do any of that ever again. I don't care. Like everything that you've done for me is enough. And what you put in my hands is enough. And it's crazy because he ended up trusting me with a lot more after that. But I think we just have to come to that place.
Well, guys, hope you enjoyed this. I know it's been a pretty long video, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun.
You enjoy it, Hannah?
I did.
So yeah, let us know if you enjoyed this, if you like this kind of like conversational type of format. It's definitely something that I enjoy. I'd like to do more, but we want to make sure that you guys are enjoying it. So leave us a comment. Let us know what you got out of this. I always love feedback of like not just oh, great video, but it's like, what actually like
What did you
impacted
like?
you?
Yeah.
What did you learn from it? And subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff. I'll make sure to put me and Hannah's, all of our social stuff in the link if you want to follow. Make sure you follow Hannah for sure, because if you're on my YouTube, you probably already follow me. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.